happen overnight. It doesn't happen. The damage does happen somewhere. It will. There will be something coming out of here that will weaken, the thing. So it's obviously shows that, But now is the time for the judiciary to actually, give a clear stand of how development versus environmental protection, who's going to favor. This is something the court must give in a clear order, a clear way of showing that this is it. No more damage should be, not only in Aravallis, it should be a precedent for the upcoming cases, etc. And like I said, it should reflect in the orders. It's very important now for the judiciary also to take this firm stand of protecting the last bit of ecology that we are fighting for. Yeah.
when the bench really gathers and in the aftermath of the judgment itself between 2nd of December and 18th of December, of which 20 are in Alwar alone, 6 are in Jaipur, 7 are in Kotputli. These are districts of Rajasthan. 1 is in Jhunjhunu, 5 in Sirohi, 2 in Tijara, 6 in Bhilwara, 2 in Rajsamand, which is near Chittor, and then, of course, 1 in Dausa. So that takes the total to over 50, but overall about 120 mines auctioned in the period between 2nd of December to 18th of December. So you think at least in the barest minimum, at least a stay could be put by the bench today when the case comes up?
That, of course, I mean, there should be a stay, but also, I want to put something here, put a perspective here. Why will this not happen? And why will this not repeat? Because what is it that actually is happening on the ground of people who are violating? What is happening to them? They are going scot-free. So nothing is going to change until the judiciary will take a stand and ensure that the people who are, even in a lot of contempt cases that come to the court, you're just letting them go scot-free. You're telling them to plant trees and, or just appreciate because of the 3-month case that they did, and they did something good, like, they did the job, and you let them go scot-free. The officers will have to be prosecuted. Unless you are not asked, you're not going to be punished, nothing is going to change. Yeah. So these are the deep rooted problems, and if the judiciary has to do their job, they will have to punish, prosecute only then, not only in this aspect, in every aspect. Every aspect. The failure of governance is also very clearly connected to the failure of judiciary.
There is, you are right, and it's a societal issue, of course, and then there is politics part of it also. I'll come back to you just in a bit, Bhavreen, because I'm told Shambhavi is back with us live from outside the Supreme Court. Shambhavi, you spent about a week or more in the Aravallis in Rajasthan. You did some work which can qualify as dangerous, where you are risking a lot. You have been issued threats in the last 1 week on your work in exposing the kind of activities that have been going on, many of them illegal. Just before the review comes up, tell us what kind of or what scale of illegal activity. There is the legal mining bit that happens, obviously, and remember, mining is legit in the sense that if you don't sustainably exploit the resources, our growth trajectory stalls. But the illegal part of which happens is something which needs to be clamped down upon. So please tell us, for the benefit of viewers, what level and scale of illegal mining activity was happening in the Aravallis, where you were reporting from?
So while talking about illegal activity, one thing that we can tell you is that the illegal activity is going on left, right and center in the entire Aravalli Hills, and that predates this new definition which is approved by the Supreme Court. That predates this entire rally or entire campaign of this deciding this new definition of Aravallis, and the kind of in the kind of ways that illegal mining going on. The most common one that we saw there was there are running illegal mines in the garb of legal leases. So basically what they do is there are a lot of minerals in Aravalli Hills, and if you have to extract one kind of mineral or one kind of stone, you have to get the license under that stone. And the most cheap one there is limestone, which is used for cement. Now, what mostly these people, these mine owners have been found doing is that they choose the cheapest stone, where they have to pay less taxes on the ongoing and coming and going of the dumpers with their material, as well as general taxes on the stone. They choose that stone, they choose that mineral, and they acquire a lease in that name. So the lease becomes legal. But what they do, once they acquire that area of the hill where they start mining, they not only use that mine for that stone, but several other stones illegally. Now, also under law, there is a provision under Rajasthan Mineral Concession Act, where under Section 18, there are around 29 to 30 conditions which needs to be fulfilled for a mine to run legally. Now, even if any section, any condition is not met, by default that mine becomes null and void, and by default that mine is illegal, even if one condition is not met. And what we saw in the mines, all ranging all around this Aravalli Hills, whether it's Alwar, whether it's Kotputli or it's Sikar, in several districts, we have seen that more than 4, 5, 6 conditions are not being met. There's a rampant illegal mining going on. They are also going against the NGT order. In most of these areas, there is NGT order that no mining will be carried out post-sunset. So the legal time would be between sunrise and sunset. But there is active mining going on. There's blasting happening, deep hole blasting happening. And for the help of our assistance for our viewers, deep hole mining is when they actually use explosive to extract mines from minerals from a mine, which is they dig around 6 to 8 feet deep hole and they fill it with explosives and then they burst it. So that is deep hole mining. That has such huge effect. Even Republic, when we were there filing our reports from there, they were investigating. We felt the mountain beneath us, the mountain which was at least 50 meter. We felt that shake because of the effect of that deep hole, and that is going on within 40 feet of the houses. People are living, the children who are studying. So there's so many things which is wrong, which is going on, where Aravalli Hills is being exploited, and a lot of hills have been wiped clean from the Aravalli range. So that is what we actively saw. Back to you.
All right, Rhythm, our Executive Editor, Legal Affairs and Governance, joins us live on this broadcast. Rhythm, obviously a big day. Shambhavi was mentioning that the Supreme Court could have taken it up when it opens after the vacation, but the fact that they have picked it up now during vacation really underscores the kind of seriousness with which this is being taken.
Oh yes, absolutely. I agree with Shambhani. A very good morning to everybody who's joining us this Monday morning. It's going to be a super packed day in the Supreme Court, and that also on vacation time. This is going to be extremely crucial to see, because we're going to see two cases today. We're going to discuss the Sengar case in a short while from now, Abhishek, but now we're going to be talking about the big Aravalli case. This is a case that's picked up momentum, and we have to tell our viewers it's only picked up momentum after Republic TV has done sustained campaigning for the past 2 weeks. Shambhavi has been reporting from there. We've seen the BJP councillor there who tried to offer a bribe to Shambhavi. We've seen the kind of attention this case has got, but I want to go to the very heart of the matter. First, viewers, let's tell you what's going to happen in the Supreme Court today. It's extremely pertinent to remember this is a rather unusual development that the top court of the country, on its own suo motu cognizance, is taking a review petition on a 20th November judgment. This was by earlier former Chief Justice of India, Justice Gawai. Now the vacation bench of Justice Suryakant is taking this in suo motu review. Why this is critical? First, a 3-judge bench of the vacation bench is hearing this matter. This judgment had been passed by 3 judges. That means it's critical what will happen today. Usually on the vacations, a 2-judge bench can hear a review, but first, it's a review. Second, it's in vacations. And third, the bench that has been constituted is a 3-judge bench. That means there could be possibly something that's going to be done in this case that could mean something that could stop one of the world's oldest mountain ranges from systematic destruction, estimated to be about 3.2 billion years old, stretching from 650 kilometers from Delhi to Gujarat. I've told you what the controversy is, viewers. I'm going to go to Shambhavi. Abhishek has given us a breaking news. We're going to go to that. We also have guests with us whom we're going to go to. We all know what this real controversy is about. Before I go across to the guest who's joining us, Bhavreen Kandhari, the environmentalist with us, it is all about a definition. But is it really only about this definition? The controversy over the 20th November order refuses to die. Environmentalists oppose the verdict. Supreme Court takes suo motu cognizance. But I think what is so critical to understand is during the hearing, Bhavreen Kandhari, a very good morning to you. The amicus in the case assisting the court as an amicus had objected to the definition, contended all hills below 100 meters would be opened up for mining. As a result, the Aravalli hills would lose their continuity. This is something environmentalists have been saying. But the documents that Abhishek has gathered clearly show that mining leases have been given out. Shambhavi, being there, has seen that illegal mining is happening. How does this stop, Bhavreen?
So, hi, thank you for the very firm report that you just shared. So, this is important. That's why we've been saying, it's very important to have this, very, very transparent mapping. The local field verification now, like Shambhavi, she's showing that. Now, why is it that this is not on record? And of course, an immediate moratorium on fresh clearances and mining, especially in disputed tracts, that's very important. The creation, of maybe a dedicated authority, an Aravalli Conservation Authority, to oversee all this integrated restoration and sustainable use. So this is very, very important, that the independent field-based mapping, which is not only in terms of, what we are talking here, like in terms of elevation, it must include geology, it must include hydrology, biodiversity, all the scientific aspects, and with data, and made public, with independent, analysts and auditors, etc. So because we don't have this, then this is, obviously increasing. Even in, just now I heard Vimlendu say, all the, sorry, I'm not sure about the number of mining permissions that have come in just these last few days. Itself shows that there is no transparent, a mechanism, to make that happen. And wherever there is no transparency, there will always be all this, mess like what we are seeing. So, of course, we are hoping there will be a temporary moratorium or a stay on new mining and tree felling and all this, illegal construction and etc. in this ecological sensitive zone.
All right, I want to also go across to Shambhavi. Shambhavi, a very good morning to you. Rather chilly in the Supreme Court. How soon do you think the Supreme Court bench is going to sit? What is the item number that's going to be the suo motu cognizance that we are looking at, Shambhavi? And of course, later I'm going to ask you on the Sengar case.
So given that there are around 9 items listed before the Supreme Court and the Aravalli matter is listed at number 5, it can be expected somewhere around 11:20 to 11:30 p.m. And it depends upon how quick the previous cases are wrapped up. But on a safer side, 11:30 p.m. is when we can expect something huge or something substantive from the Supreme Court. Back to you.
Okay, then let's also go across to Abhishek. Abhishek, can we just get a sense from you, because what you've got and gathered is very critical. You've got your sources telling you some massive breaking news about mining leases that have been given out, Abhishek, and this clearly indicates the spotlight on licenses that have been issued after the Supreme Court's order.
Well, yes. So in a way, Rhythm, that's essentially a reflection of the kind of constraints that were lifted by the Supreme Court order, or the kind of window of exploitation, so to say, that emerged because of the easy definition that was slipped into it, and you were mentioning rightly so that the amicus had objected to that definition being part of the order. He was overruled and the definition was included. Now, what this means is that because of the definition incorporated in the verdict, we are seeing a situation where the executive branch, where the government of the day believes that, okay, fine, the mining leases, irrespective of the hue and cry that we are seeing, irrespective of the outcry, we can continue to give these mining leases. An example of which is the document that we have put across, which shows that in the window of December 2 to December 18, that's in the fortnight after the verdict, as many as 100 plus mines were put out on auction, 50 were given. Now, the government view is that these were not part of the Aravalli ecosystem or not part of the forest ranges. But what constitutes the forest ranges? What constitutes the Aravalli ecosystem? That itself is under review today by the Supreme Court of its own order of November 20. And that's why I think what we are seeing panning out in front of our eyes is a significant development in terms of environmental activism rhythm, leading to the Supreme Court, if I could say, getting back a bit on the back foot and asking for a review and with kind of urgency, where you are seeing the vacation bench not waiting for the vacations to get over and take up the matter in right earnest, which, as Shambhavi said, it's 10:30 now, might come up between 11:20 and 11:30, so in an hour from now. And before that, of course, Ridham, the fact that Kuldeep Sengar case is also coming up, and in some ways, both the cases a product of the kind of reportage we did on Republic, the coverage we did on Republic, the kind of focus, sharp focus we brought on both the cases, and made the powers that we take note of these significant lapses, either at the end of the judicial, in both the cases, you know, in the case of Kuldeep Singh Sengar, that was too technical a reading of the law, perhaps leading to a situation where the victim, a rape victim, felt so threatened that she had to come out and protest outside the Delhi High Court. So in the case of the Aravalli case, where it almost opened a window where in some pockets at least, if not in its entirety, the Aravalli ranges face the danger of being exploited to a level where you have the possibility of some bit of it or some bit of the ranges getting lost. So I think in that sense, it's a very important day, both in the Kuldeep Sengar case as also in the Aravalli case. And 11:30 is the time we are expecting that this should come up, the Supreme Court verdicts review. Ridham, what really happens in the review? If you could tell us, does the review means that the order itself is now stayed automatically, or does that mean that the court would take it up and decide whether, you know, they need to really put some parts of it under review, all of it under review, give it to some committee, or put on hold the operation of the verdict till the time that the court does a complete review? How does the process go, Ridham?
So, Abhishek, first let's tell our viewers, my esteemed colleague has also studied the law. I think he knows the answer to the question, but this is for our viewers. So, let's actually tell you. First, Abhishek, the cause list has put up on the Supreme Court website says, and I'm reading out from there, suo motu civil case regarding the definition of Aravalli Hills and ranges and ancillary issues will be taken up, which means it is only going to be a review on the definition of Aravalli Hills. That means the Supreme Court suo motu, out of concern after the environmental storm that has been caused, is going to be taking up this matter on the definition of the Aravalli Hills. Amid the concerns of the recent redefinition of the Aravalli Hills, this suo motu cognizance matter is going to be taken up. It was filed on Saturday, December 27. It's being taken up on Monday. This is a bench of Justice Surya Kant, Justice Maheshwari and Justice Maseha. This is a vacation bench. They are taking it up on their own initiative. So first, in a review, this shows their initiative. It also shows and reflects the severity of the criticism that has been there on the former Chief Justice of India's 20th November judgment and the current Chief Justice of India's responsiveness to the legitimate concerns that have been there. Chief Justice of India Surya Kant has indicated a 3-judge bench will be constituted to reconsider the November 2025 judgment. I think this really clearly means that there will be, after there's been mounting pressure that's there, it's a rare instance that the Supreme Court has acknowledged potential flaws in its 20th November judgment and in a recent environment judgment, while members are still going to be looking at what happens now. I also want to tell our viewers that in the Supreme Court, there have been 2 cases of environment that have been there, Abhishek, for the last 3 decades. There was the MC Mehta case and the T.N. Godavarman case. These were cases that when we were reporting in the Supreme Court used to come up on a Monday or a Friday every afternoon. We've seen the country's top jurists being there in the environment cases. It was Mr. Hari Salve from 1996 that we saw as an amicus in this case, and he was very much against any mining taking place in this. Slowly, the MC Mehta case's focus shifted to the Aravalli Hills. This is, I'm talking back in 2000, 2002. The definition had gone through a rechange because of something that had happened in Rajasthan in 2010 when they tried to redefine the definition of Aravallis. After that, the FSL came out with a definition. Everybody was happy with the definition, and that's what struck. Today, when Mr. Salve came on the conversation, on the debate with Arnab, our editor-in-chief, the one thing he said is, why touch the definition of that the FSL had given in 2010? That's been 15 years from now. Why have this committee give this definition and accept this definition? This is a flaw. He's also spoken about the height. There was a broad definition of the Aravallis that was broadened. Why is this height-based definition suddenly taken? What really prompted this? Now, another thing we really need to mention in this case is the T.N. Godavarman cases that was also for the forest conservation that had happened. After these 2 judgments, there was a feeling in the courts that a large part of the environment was being preserved. The reason this judgment has actually caused an uproar is there is no methodology for having seen this 100-meter definition.
I mean, I fail to understand. So if I am 5 feet 8 inches, I am Abhishek Kapoor. If I am 5 feet 7 inches, I am not Abhishek Kapoor. Is that the definition really? I mean, and you know, you go to the forest, you realize that the forest is not just the tree. The forest is the entire ecosystem. You know?
Yes. And
so it applies to the ranges. And I think there has been some error of judgment, perhaps to put it mildly, Rhythm, in the interpretation of what constitutes the Aravalli ranges. And maybe as it came out during that interview of Harish Salve with the editor-in-chief Arnab Goswami in the debate, I think the precautionary principle, maybe you can elaborate a bit on that, which has evolved over a period of 2-3 decades. Maybe that was sort of given a go-by when Justice Gawai's bench really gave that order.
That's exactly what Mr. Salve did say. This is a top focus, Abhishek, and really the point is these hills predate civilization. We should not let modern governance or modern rules try and deal with something that was established 3.2 billion years ago. Viewers, it's a top focus. Roughly in around 20 minutes from now, the Supreme Court that's going to already be sitting, looking at mentionings in the vacation bench. The top court, the Chief Justice's dome, just below that, the top room number 1 is going to be hearing this matter. We're also going to shift to the Sengar case, Abhishek, and try and get a sense of what prompted this criticism, why there was a big deal made out of the public servant definition. But first, viewers, let's tell you, the same 3-judge bench that's going to be hearing the matter of the Aravalli Hills case is going to also be hearing the CBI's plea challenging the Delhi High Court judgment suspending the life sentence awarded to former Uttar Pradesh MLA Kuldeep Sengar in the Unnao rape case. The CBI had approached the Supreme Court. The Delhi High Court's December 23rd verdict suspended the life sentence pending appeal that was awarded to Sengar by the trial court in 2019. In 2019, the trial court had said that he's been convicted of rape of the girl who was 17, a minor at the time. The basis for releasing Sengar was the High Court's prima facie finding the offence of aggravated sexual assault under POSCO. The basis for releasing Sengar, I beg your pardon, was the High Court saying that he does not constitute being a public servant under the Act. They believed he was not a public servant, and therefore 7 years of his rigorous imprisonment had gone by. They could give him the benefit of the doubt for the time being, and lots of other things that were stated in the judgment. However, it's now the CBI that's come here. Let me also now go across to Riyanka and Brinda Arige, our guest who's joining us on the phone line. Riyanka is outside the Supreme Court. A very good morning to you, Riyanka, and also Brinda, who's joining us. Riyanka, I come to you first. Over the past few days, I've seen you talking to the victim. I've seen you talking to her mother. They have both broken out into tears when they're speaking to you. What is the pathos that you've noticed, the helplessness you've seen when you saw them trying to protest at India Gate, when you saw them going in a bus trying to go and take some help from any quarters they possibly could, Priyanka?
Well, it all started when the Delhi High Court's divisional bench went ahead and suspended the life imprisonment of Kuldeep Sengar. Since then, the victim has been protesting on the streets of the national capital. It started with her protesting along with activist Yogita Bhayana at the India Gate Circle when they were brutally dragged and they were put into the buses. That was a detention by the Delhi police that took place on that matter. They were not, they were not allowed to raise their voices. On the other hand, we saw for the last few days there have been multiple protests that have broken out across several areas, whether it was the protest by the victim and many others who had come in, joined her as a support, asking for justice at Jantar Mantar yesterday. A day before that, there were protests that was held outside the Delhi High Court, even though it was a vacation, but the people have been raising their voices. The women went out on the streets. They have been raising their voice for the cancellation of the order, cancellation of the bail that has been given to Kuldeep Sengar. But it is very important to note, Sengar will not be walking out of the jail because he is already convicted for 10 years in connection for the killing of I beg your pardon, in connection with the custodial death of victim's father in this very matter. But all eyes are going to be today because the 3-judge bench that will be taking forward the Aravalli case also listens to the Unnao rape case. The 3-judge bench led by the Chief Justice of India, Suryakant, they will be hearing the Unnao rape case, especially the CBI, which had gone ahead and challenged the Delhi High Court's order in this regard. In fact, the CBI in its appeal before the Supreme Court referred to its verdict in the LK Advani case, in which it held that anyone who holds public office such as MPs or MLAs would be deemed a public servant. The agency had contended that the High Court erred by declaring that Kuldeep Singh Sengar, an MLA at that time the offence was committed, was not a public servant to be prosecuted under the POCSO and granted him bail. So over these lines, we are going to be seeing what exactly the bench, the Supreme Court, observes today.
Priyanka, fantastic that you read out that judgment. Abhishek and I are also going to go across to Brinda Arige, who's joining us. Brinda, I remember when this judgment came, I spoke with you immediately after that on the TV when we were speaking. This is a girl who was gang raped when she was a minor. She tried to immolate herself outside the UP Chief Minister's office. Her aunts died when they were coming to Delhi to give testimony in this case. She was in the car with them. Her father died in judicial custody after being assaulted by Kuldeep Sengar's brother. There is no case that is properly made out against Sengar on that case. Now he's been let scot-free. Once when he was out on bail, the judges had been told that the victim had said that there was pressure and she was being threatened. When he had not been convicted, he had tried to speak with police officers and put pressure on them so that she does not name him. The case only after it came to the Supreme Court, and it was the former Chief Justice of India, Justice Gogoi, Ranjan Gogoi, who had directed the authorities to immediately have this matter shifted to Delhi. That's when, in a Delhi trial court in 30 Hazari, she got justice. Today, she believes there is no justice. She's running pillar to post. She believes there is a threat again to her mother and her. There are 3 members of her immediate family who are dead. Kuldeep Sengar is possibly going to walk out of jail. And I'll tell you why, Brinda. Because this was the bigger case that was pending. And the smaller case that was only of 10 years for the death of the father, which was a little far removed from him, so it's not a larger sentence he's gotten it, was the smaller sentence. He was hoping this case would be shushed away. He would get away in this case, and in that other case, he would also, that sentence would be suspended. He would be a free man.
Yes. And I just cannot understand. I'm shocked that the judges seem to be functioning from what space. Their sentence or the phrase that they have put over there is not strong enough. The threat perception is not strong enough to keep convict Kuldeep Sengar in jail. Everything that you pointed out just now is threat, was intimidation. And it didn't just stop at threat and intimidation. There were killings. There were murder. And by just grace of God, probably, this girl and her mother are still around over there. How is it that judges are not looking at the letter and spirit of the law, and they are holding a certain procedure? Instead of looking at the procedure as due process of law, have now placed that burden on the survivor, on the complainant, to say that, now you tell us why you should not be, why should we consider you to be innocent? Why we should consider you to be the victim survivor? Is that the job of the court? Is that the job of the judges? We have still held the entire judiciary in that colonial space. And that is why we are time and again told, you cannot question the judges. It is, conflict, and not only sub judice. So you cannot question the judges, but you can question the courts. The judges are functionaries of the court, paid for by the paymaster citizens. And anything that pays money paid from the citizens have a right to question. We need not know the law. I need not be told that don't question judges. In my little understanding and intelligence, I understand what is right and wrong, what is abuse of power. Here, systemic power versus a citizen of India. Who do you think is going to win? It is a systemic power that is winning, constantly winning, and placing the burden on the citizen who has come to the court to seek that justice, seek that protection, which has been denied all along. Courts are our last resort. Where else will we go if the court makes a mockery of cases that we place before them and mockery of the citizens, hoping, because there's still hope. Today, when the CBI is going to place its plea before the Supreme Court, it is done with that hope that the laws and the constitutional guarantees will be upheld. It cannot be any longer left to the system to say, don't question us. We demand accountability. That is their job and duty. We are not asking a favor.
Just as you speak, Abhishek and I are going to go across to protests that are happening outside the Supreme Court.
से में अब पुलिस ने डिटेन कर चुकी है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तस्वीरें हमने दिखाई थी कि किस तरह से भारी संख्या में यहाँ पे पुलिस को तैनात किया गया था। और देखिए ये बस है जिसमें जो महिलाएं हैं यहाँ पे पहुंची है और अपना प्रदर्शन दर्ज करा रही है। जिस तरह से गुस्सा जो है कुलदीप सेंगर को, एक पहले देखिए लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट की सजा होती है, लेकिन उसके बाद उसे बेल दे दिया जाता है और उसी को लेकर के गुस्सा जो है वो लोगों का फूटता है। देश के अलग अलग हिस्सों में देखिए प्रदर्शन देखने को मिलता है। और आज चूंकि यहाँ पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट में 11 बजे के बाद ये सुनवाई होगी और ऐसे में यहाँ पे देखिए महिलाएं, देखिए बस भर के, ये जो महिलाएं हैं यहाँ पे आपको नजर आ रही होगी, बस भर के यहाँ पे महिलाएं पहुंची थी, अपना विरोध दर्ज कराने के लिए पहुंची थी। ये प्रदर्शन आप देख सकते हैं। हालांकि पुलिस ने उन्हें डिटेन कर लिया है, पुलिस ने इन्हें डिटेन किया है। और अब देखिए अगर बात करें तो पूरे इलाके में पुलिस ने बैरिकेडिंग कर दी है। यानी आमतौर पर ये जो सड़क है ये आम जनता के लिए खुला रहता है, लेकिन जो हमने थोड़ी देर पहले तस्वीरें दिखाई थी कि पुलिस ने बैरिकेडिंग कर दी है। यानी पुलिस को ये टिप मिली थी कि आज यहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट जो है वो हो सकता है। और ऐसे में देखिए ये पूरे इलाके की बात करें, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के बाहर अगर हम बात करें तो पूरी तरह से यहाँ पे अभी भी गहमा गहमी का पूरा माहौल जो है वो बना हुआ है। यहाँ पे पुलिस छावनी में पूरा इलाका वो तब्दील हुआ पड़ा है और टेंस्ड माहौल है, क्योंकि जो अगर हम बात करें तो महिलाओं का गुस्सा वो देखने को मिल रहा है। महिलाएं यहाँ पे पहुंची थी, अलग अलग संगठन जो है वो भी यहाँ पे और भी पहुंच सकते हैं और यहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट कर सकते हैं। और इसी के मद्देनजर यहाँ पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट में ठीक से सुनवाई हो सके, उसी के मद्देनजर देखिए पुलिस ने पूरे इलाके में देखिए चारों ओर से बैरिकेडिंग कर दी है। यानी नॉर्मल गाड़ियों की एंट्री नहीं दी जा रही है। आप जब इस लेन में एंटर करेंगे तो आपकी आईडी कार्ड बाकायदा पूरी चेक होगी। जब हम भी अंदर आ रहे थे तो हमने भी अपनी आईडी कार्ड शो की कि हम प्रेस से हैं, तब हमें जाने की इजाजत दी है। यानी आम जनता के लिए फिलहाल यहाँ पे आने जाने नहीं दिया जा रहा है। और पुलिस को यही टिप मिली थी कि यहाँ पे प्रोटेस्ट हो सकता है और इसी को लेकर के पुलिस अलर्ट थी। अभी भी जो जानकारी मिल रही है उसके अनुसार और भी कुछ संगठन जो है जो नाराज है, जो महिलाएं हैं, जो आम महिलाएं हैं, वो काफी ज्यादा नाराज है कि किस तरह से कुलदीप सेंगर जो है, पहले तो एक लड़की लड़की के साथ रेप करता है। बहुत मुश्किल से जब मामला ये उठता है उसके बाद उसे सज़ा होती है, उम्र कैद की सज़ा होती है, लेकिन देखिए किस तरह से उसे बेल दे दिया जाता है और इसी में विवाद बढ़ता चला जाता है। खुद पीड़िता जो है वो कुछ दिन पहले जिस दिन बेल मिला था कुलदीप सेंगर को, तो पीड़िता इंडिया गेट में अपनी माताजी के साथ बैठ करके प्रदर्शन करते हुए भी नजर आई थी और उसी को देखते हुए जो है लोगों का एक गुस्सा फूटा है और लोग यहाँ पे पहुंचे हैं कि आखिर कुलदीप सेंगर को जो है जो आज फैसला आएगा।
ये पुलिस बंद कर रही है, ये देखिए ये हमें घसीट रही है पुलिस, हम बेकसूर हैं।
दिल्ली प्रदेश की अध्यक्ष हूँ महिला कांग्रेस की, हम बेटी के लिए आए हैं तो हम उसके लिए बात भी नहीं कर सकते। हमने नारेबाजी ये देखिए कैसे खींचा जा रहा है, कैसे मारा जा रहा है। ये हम एक बेटी जिसको कुलदीप सेंगर को क्यों नहीं पकड़ती, कुलदीप सेंगर को क्यों नहीं पकड़ी, इनको बोलो। अरे मैं दिल्ली प्रदेश की अध्यक्ष हूँ महिला कांग्रेस की, मैं ये पूछना चाहती हूँ ये पुलिस कुलदीप सेंगर को क्यों नहीं पकड़ रही। आपकी बहन बेटी होगी ना वो, आप
महिला कांग्रेस तस्वीरों में देख सकते हैं यहाँ पर किस तरह से प्रोटेस्ट करने। मैम एक मिनट, क्या कह रहे हैं, क्यों आए हैं यहाँ पर भैया? यह तस्वीर देखिए किस तरह से दिखाया जा रहा है।
Those are pictures coming from outside the Supreme Court where the women's wing of the Congress party, the activists have reached there and protesting the Delhi High Court verdict. But they are outside Supreme Court. The reason is that the Supreme Court is going to take up the matter in a while from now. The CBI appeal against the Delhi High Court verdict. We are continuing our coverage. Short break coming up on the other side, coming back on the other side.
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने,
सब कुछ मजेदार बने।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा, सबका राजा आरती और मसाला।
We just now felt this entire mountain shiver because there are blasts going on. As we were telling you, usually for the limestone mining, the acceptable range of the blast is around 1 meter. And that won't be so harsh that we could feel this entire mountain, feel shake. Yes, definitely. And the kind of, because for cement mining, they need a blast of a larger range of something around 50 meters or 60 meters. And when that happens, we were not able to show you, but because that is very frequent between 2 to 3 p.m. we'll try to get that on camera for you guys. But while I was speaking to you, I could feel this mountain shake. So that is the range, and all of this is illegal, Shivam. All of this, the range of those blasts which is used in those mining, the kind of trucks that you see on the other end which are carrying those residual pebbles, those are also they are not legally allowed to sell those. But they're not only doing illegal work, they're also making double profit out of whatever is left here. They're making profit illegally out of the Aravalli hills, the lungs of the Delhi NCR, the home for several hundreds of people, wildlife, and so much more. As we know that recently the Supreme Court has accepted the new definition of the Aravalli range, where any mountain which is under the height of 100 meters will not be considered as a part of Aravalli range. Now, what will be the repercussions of it? Any mountain which is not considered a part of Aravalli range will be open to construction, will be open to mining, and this Aravalli range which is more...
आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला। MDH
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार, विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ,
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
We are willing to put an end to this conflict via peaceful means based on the principles that I outlined in July last year when I spoke at the Foreign Ministry of Russia.
Putin squarely blamed Kyiv for the failure of peace negotiations, accusing Ukraine's leadership of refusing dialogue.
Statements from Zelensky that he is not prepared to discuss territory issues.
प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे।
मेरी चिमनी टूट जाएगी। What are you doing?
रानी, इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं।
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा। रुंगटा स्टील TMT से बना।
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं। रुंगटा स्टील TMT बार एकदम सॉलिड।
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला। सिप सिप जीरा सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप।
We just now felt this entire mountain shiver because there are blasts going on. As we were telling you, usually for the limestone mining, the acceptable range of the blast is around 1 meter. And that won't be so harsh that we could feel this entire mountain, feel shake. Yes, definitely. And the kind of, because for cement mining, they need a blast of a larger range of something around 50 meters or 60 meters. And when that happens, we were not able to show you, but because that is very frequent between 2 to 3 p.m. we'll...
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो, मिलाओ और खाओ,
8 मिनट में तैयार।
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार, विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी।
MDH की देगी मिर्च।
देगी मिर्च का तड़का, अंग अंग फड़का।
MDH की देगी मिर्च.
We are willing to put an end to this conflict via peaceful means based on the principles that I outlined in July last year when I spoke at the Foreign Ministry of Russia.
Putin squarely blamed Kyiv for the failure of peace negotiations, accusing Ukraine's leadership of refusing dialogue.
Statements from Zelensky that he is not prepared to discuss territory issues. At the moment, we don't see their readiness. I would like to remind where it all began.
Rejecting allegations against Russia, Putin claimed Moscow did not start the war. Putin blames roots of Ukraine conflict lie in 2014 anti-constitutional coup.
We did not start this war. This war began as a result of the anti-constitutional military coup in 2014 and then commencement of the military action against its own citizens in the southeast of Ukraine.
Good morning. Welcome to Republic TV. Our top focus is going to be on the Sengar case coming in from the Supreme Court today, where the breaking news is coming in of a three-judge bench of the Supreme Court going to hear the CBI's plea challenging the Delhi High Court order suspending life sentence awarded to Sengar. We're now being told Tushar Mehta, SG Tushar Mehta is going to be leading the team that's going to be deciding this case, the Sengar case, the CBI team in the Supreme Court. That clearly means that they're going to be going full attack against the Delhi High Court order. Remember, viewers, earlier when this case had come out, we were waiting for what has to happen. And now a packed courtroom ahead of that. We're hearing now the vacation bench led by Justice Suryakant is going to hear the CBI's plea. The matter is going to be that it's a packed courtroom. We can already see what's happening inside the courtroom. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, Riyanka, present in the courtroom, the country's top law officer leading the CBI team in the Supreme Court. The bench is going to assemble any moment now, and he's going to be leading the team, appearing for the CBI against the Delhi High Court order. But we're also staying with those visuals, Riyanka. You can continue speaking, where protests have broken out earlier and today outside the Supreme Court.
That's right. Just a while from now, at around the Supreme Court area, the road which is in front of Supreme Court area, the Bhagwan Das Road, was stopped because there were protests that took place towards one of the gates of the Supreme Court, where several women protesters had come in, and they were in fact protesting against the Delhi High Court order that cancelled the life imprisonment of Kuldeep Sengar, and they continued to demand justice for the victim. And we also saw how the protesters were in fact detained by the police there, and they were taken into the bus and they were taken away from this particular area. In fact, what we are also going to seeing that the bench will be assembling very, very shortly, as you also rightly mentioned, that Solicitor General Tushar Mehta will be leading the CBI side, and he will be putting forward all the important details that needs to be told to the court, and of course the version of the victim. She also had expressed the fact that she will be knocking the doors of the Supreme Court along with her own counsel, but they have now awaited the CBI's move going forward. In fact, we are also going to be seeing several developments coming in on the other hand, because there is another appeal. There's another appeal that has been filed by two other female advocates in front of the Supreme Court, challenging challenging this particular order by the Delhi High Court that cancels the life imprisonment of Kuldeep Sengar. And one by one, we are going to be bringing in developments as what the court observes, what the Central Bureau of Investigation says in this regard. It has been for many days that the victim and her mother have been reaching out to the media, have been protesting on the streets of the national capital, saying that their life is in threat, saying that Kuldeep Sengar has been sending out people outside their houses. He's sending goons outside their houses, and they feel unsafe at this point in time. Also, they've reinstated faith in the Supreme Court. They earlier said that they do not have any faith in the CBI, but that is something that they have reversed, and they said, okay, they will be putting their faith in what the CBI says to the Supreme Court, and of course the observation that will be made by the Supreme Court today. So all eyes continue to remain on the developments from the Supreme Court at this point in time. We are going to be seeing the bench coming together in some time from now. It's a packed courtroom ahead of Sengar's hearing that, of course, we are showing to our viewers, and I can also see, and we are all standby for the Supreme Court bench to hear the Sengar's plea, for the CBI's petition against Sengar's cancellation of life imprisonment any time from now. And we continue to bring you all the updates from the Supreme Court.
Okay, let's tell our viewers, and Abhishek, you can also join us in this. Item 3 is the Sengar case that's going to come up in the top court of the country. Item 5 is the Aravalli case. I'm going to stay with the Sengar case first, and let's tell our viewers the details about the case, after which we're going to go back to those protest visuals that are coming in from there. Remember, the victim had said she was lured by a woman and her son to move to Kanpur with the allurement of employment. On the night of 11th June 2017, she went. She was raped multiple times, it was stated, by some driver or something. She was then taken to Kuldeep Sengar's residence, where she had been raped by him. She was a victim at the time. In an open letter in 2017, she had... First, let's listen into her live reaction. That's coming.
समय दिया गया है और थोड़ी देर में मुझे लगता है अब सुनवाई भी शुरू हो जाएगी, लेकिन देखने वाली बात ये होगी कि आखिर सुनवाई में क्या कुछ निकल करके सामने आता है, क्योंकि फिलहाल अगर हम कोर्ट के बाहर की स्थिति की बात करें तो यहाँ पे स्थिति जो है काफी ज्यादा टेंस्ड माहौल और प्रदर्शन वाला माहौल देखने को मिल रहा है। जी,
let's also go across to Komal, who's joining us and showed us.
Okay, no problem. That's okay. Rhythm, I want to understand before the court proceedings begin. There are, I believe, some intervening applications, some activists joining in. What's their locus? Like, how does the court take these kind of petitions essentially in a criminal case?
Well, in this case, there are also two lawyers that have moved the Supreme Court against the Sengar case along with the CBI, and so their petition is also going to be heard, Abhishek, because they have moved with pertinent points. Several times over that I've been speaking to people, they have been telling me about these two lawyers who also moved this petition. So I do believe one of the reasons that the CBI is moving is also that both these petitions are going to be clubbed together. Riyanka was also telling us that she's spoken to them. Riyanka, we come across to you. We're also going to stay with those live visuals coming from outside the Supreme Court. These people had been detained just a few minutes ago. They were on the Bhagwan Das lane, where our reporter Komal was reporting from. These women who were in a bus had been detained. The security outside the Supreme Court, just a few very short distance from where Riyanka is reporting from. They have now been taken. Priyanka, if you could also give us a 360-degree sense of what's happening around you. Right behind Priyanka, under the dome, because of the fog, you can't see it, is where the top court, the 3-judge bench, is going to be assembling soon. We can already see inside the courtroom, Solicitor General of India, Tushar Mehta, is present to give the case of the CBI. Item 3 is the Sengar case. Priyanka, did you hear the protest happening? What was happening around you? Has the security at the Supreme Court also been strengthened?
That's right. Security outside the Supreme Court premise has been beefed up. In fact, they knew that there is going to be a protest call which has been given out by the left wing and, of course, the women wing of the Congress as well. All of them have come together. We had seen how they came together and they raised their voice. These are the same people, the same women protesters who gathered outside the Delhi High Court day before yesterday as well. And they continue to demand one thing, that is the cancellation of life imprisonment that has been given to Kuldeep Sengar, that be taken away. In fact, they continue to say that in this sense, it sends out a wrong narrative for all those rape survivors in the country. They also mentioned the fact that they will continue to protest until and unless the Unnao rape victim, the girl, does not get justice and she does not feel safe. Kuldeep Sengar, a very, very powerful man, as we know, with him there was a complete abuse of power that we had seen in this very case, how 3 family members of the victim were killed in an accident, and of course her father's custodial death. There were several other scenes that we had, of course, seen in this very case, which is why it was very, very sensitive. And even today, the victim and her mother, they say that they will continue to protest and ask the court to take back or put a stay on the Delhi High Court's order, because they feel their life is going to be in threat. They fear that there are several calls of attacks. There are goons around their house. That is one. That has been the main reason for them protesting, and of course calling for the top court, reinstating faith with the top court on this regard. Even if I stand from inside the court and if I look outside, I can see the Bhagwan Das Road. Although there is a restriction of car movements, which my colleague Komal also informed our viewers. There is a complete restriction that has been given in, and there is a huge security deployment which has been made outside, although from inside the premise it remains normal. The functioning remains normal here. There is no such police deployment inside the Supreme Court premise, but outside, yes, we can say that there are multiple officers, there are multiple police personnel, women police personnel who are present, and they are securing the area so that no other protest breaks out. We continue to be on standby in terms of the Supreme Court bench, the Chief Justice bench that will be taking up this particular matter first, and then of course they will be listening into as you also rightly mentioned, they are going to be clubbing both the matters 3 and 4, case number 3 and 4, one which is the CBI's the challenge, and second is of course the 2 female advocates who have filed this particular challenge in this case. And we're also going to see how the developments come in once the bench assembles and the case is of course taken up.
So I just wanted to answer the question that Abhishek had put to us viewers, and I also want to tell our viewers, before this case comes up, Anjali Patel had also moved the Supreme Court, and also Pooja had moved through the AOR Sanjeev Malhotra. They had moved the Supreme Court in this case, and they had requested the Supreme Court to exercise their jurisdiction to set aside the suspension of the jail sentence of Kuldeep Singh Sengar that had been granted by the Delhi High Court. This is before the CBI had actually tried to put an appeal in this case. The matter, maybe it was listed. It could be listed as per rules, it says, but it's possible that the Supreme Court bench clubs, Abhishek, both the matters together. And it may be noted that they were not parties in the case, so it has to be seen whether in fact their case will be heard. But actually, if we go across right now, we're staying with those visuals of what happened. And if that report of Komal, who was outside on the Bhagwan Das Road, which Priyanka was telling us about, is ready. Okay, let's just go across to those visuals and also stay with that protest, because once the Delhi High Court order came, The only thing we've seen in the capital is protests. There have been protests at India Gate. The Unnao rape victim has spoken to Riyanka. She has broken down. She fears for her life and her mother's life. This is after the life of her 3 immediate family members has been lost. 2 of her aunts died.
पहले देखिए लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट की सजा होती है, लेकिन उसके बाद उसे बेल दे दिया जाता है और उसी को बस भर के यहाँ पे महिलाएं पहुंची थी।
Abhishek, if you can actually speak now, it's very clear that the 2019 30 Hazari court order was a conviction, Abhishek. It meant that this person, Kuldeep Sengar, a VIP, had committed rape. It was a life imprisonment judgment, life imprisonment for the rest of his life. In 7 years, he got bail 5 times. The first time when he got bail, it was also cut short because the victim said that there were threats to her and therefore the interim bail was cut short. This time when the order of the Delhi High Court was given, I found it extremely perplexing that the High Court had said that if there is a threat perception that the victim feels that is there, then it's the duty of the agencies to protect her. That's not how a VIP rapist should be treated, Abhishek.
I mean, I think the court has taken a very, very narrow technical view there, it seems, Rhythm. And it's really unfortunate that it came to that. You can see, for example, the courts strictly read the CRPC and say, as per CRPC, the accused has spent this much time, it is already this much long, and maybe some liberty can be given just because there is an apprehension that that the victim might not be protected properly by the CRPF. Just based on that apprehension, the accused cannot be allowed to continue in the jail for longer period of time. I think this is a very strict, narrow, maybe very legal, but this legalese does not hold when you see things working on the ground, the kind of Rag Darbari we see on the ground, the kind of threat that's there around the victim, the fact that the trial itself had to be transferred outside of Unnao to Delhi, the fact that the victim had to move out of the family. I think the High Court's bail order really, despite acknowledging the threat perception, pushes the envelope in terms of how things, in a way it's a commentary on our society also, Rhythm, that it comes to this pass that very strict legal interpretation of the CRPC, etc., does not really hold. And the kind of activism we have seen, the petitions, the intervening applications, the activists supporting the victim, I think, and we at Republic, the media generally coming together, and everything has really come together to help the victim in this appeal that the CBI was forced to file.
And Abhishek, we remind our viewers it was only Republic TV that at first picked up this issue. We immediately realized that this was a wrong order. It was an erroneous order. I also want to, meanwhile, also go across to Pratibha Prahlad, who's live, joining us on the story. Pratibha, this is very clearly an order that needs to be re-looked at. But while we are re-looking at it, look at the plight of the rape victim and her mother. While she was on her way to Delhi in 2019 to give evidence in the thesis. But let's go across. First, speaking on a live is Yogita Bhyana. She's speaking at that protest that's broken out.
So if this was one of its own kind, and if this is deciding factors for other girls to get justice, we are also seeking justice for Ankita Bhandari. And it really motivates the spirit of the victim to fight for zeal. Otherwise, it kills the zeal and it kills the whole purpose of women empowerment or, injustice towards women. So I think this is a big day for all the girls.
There have been multiple protests. In fact, yesterday also there was a protest in Jantar Mantar. You were there. What exactly happened?
Nothing. We were protesting because that day we were protesting outside Parliament and they detained us and they said you can't protest here and there. You've been protesting High Court, India Gate. These are not the sites to protest. So you protest at Jantar Mantar. We also are, the citizens of the country. We understand that we are not here just to create the scene. We wanted to simply raise our voice. So we decided to go to Jantar Mantar yesterday.
Okay, also for the fact that it is the CBI's appeal that has challenged the Delhi High Court's order, but also we were awaiting that victims from the side of her counsel also, will there be any challenge in the Supreme Court?
They were planning, but right now the CBI has gone, so we are supporting this particular thing. Let's see what happens today. If the purpose is solved, we don't have to have our adivaktas going there or the lawyers going there. But if we don't get relief, for sure we are going to them.
So lastly, Yogita, what is the take of the victim after, she got to know that this case is being taken up by the Supreme Court?
She is very hopeful and she has high hopes from the Supreme Court. She is here around and she is personally here to seek justice from Supreme Court of India.
That's right. Thank you for speaking with us on Republic. So that was Yogita Bhatia, who was speaking with us, and we have been speaking with her for the last few days that we have been tracking this story. In fact, all the protests that we have seen in the national capital, be it at India Gate or Jantar Mantar or outside Delhi High Court or Parliament, Yogita Bhatia, along with the victim, have been protesting. And of course, there are other women protesters who have come out on the streets of the national capital. Some of them who have been detained. They were here to raise their voice outside the Supreme Court, but they have been detained and they have been taken in multiple buses. That is something that we had seen from the report that my colleague Komal had got us from outside the Supreme Court. But yes, all eyes are going to be on what the bench decides, what it observes, whether or not there will be a stay that will be given on the Delhi High Court's order. That is something awaited.
Yeah, absolutely. Pratibha Prahalad continues to be with us. Rhythm introduced her a while back. Pratibha Prahalad, my question is, the court venturing into the interpretation of Section 5C of the POCSO Act in the light of the Section 21C of the IPC, this was clearly aimed at letting Kuldeep Sengar go off the hook. The whole interpretation and our understanding of that as a miscarriage of justice was actually planned.
So, this apology of a man, the Sengar fellow, deserved to actually not just have life imprisonment, but he needed to, get death sentence according to me, because he exploited a young woman, a minor girl who went to him to seek a job. Not only raped her, he killed her uncles. He got her father killed in police custody, and he abused his power. He used and abused his power to, to just victimize this girl and her family. So I don't understand. When we talk about justice, justice is not just legal. Justice is also moral and ethical, and that is something that has right now has shaken the conscience of this country. When Sengar got this bail on a technical ground, but he's not going to come out because he is in jail for the death of the father in police custody, I'm told. But it's not about his coming out or not coming out. The thing is, what is the perception? The perception of justice is not just some, like you said, legalese kind of language where, some technicality has not been adhered to, or on technical grounds he's given bail. It is supposed to be ethical, it's supposed to be moral, and it is supposed to, uphold the conscience of our country. And right now we are hoping that the Supreme Court will see this, that the entire, the system has shaken, and that they will restore confidence in our justice system.
Absolutely, and I thank you for being with us, Pratibha. Do stay with us, viewers. We're waiting for that verdict from the Supreme Court. I would rather say waiting for the hearing and see what's going to happen in the Supreme Court today. Coming up after a short break, we stay with Republic TV versus Sengar, this campaign that had started in 2018. It's time that we tell our viewers, do not release Sengar. That's the top focus. Back after a short break as the Supreme Court is going to hear this case shortly.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी एमडीएच का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला सिप सिप जीरा सिप एमडीएच का जल्दी और जीरा सिप एमडीएच का जल जीरा सिप
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार विमल बोलो जुबान केसरी
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास
वाह वाह मम्मा क्या स्वाद है अरे मेरे राजा सबका राजा और प्योर मसाला
We just now felt this entire mountain shiver because there are blasts going on. As we were telling you, usually for the limestone mining, the acceptable range of the blast is around 1 meter. And that won't be so harsh that we could feel this entire mountain, feel shake. Yes, definitely. And the kind of, because for cement mining, they need a blast of a larger range of something around 50 meters or 60 meters. And when that happens, we were not able to show you, but because that is very frequent between 2 to 3 p.m. we'll try to get that on camera for you guys. But while I was speaking to you, I could feel this mountain shake. So that is the range, and all of this is illegal, Shivam. All of this, the range of those blasts which is used in those mining.
A big day in the Supreme Court as it hears both the Sengar and the Aravalli case. Stories that were reported by Republic TV, investigated by Republic TV and debated on Republic all of last week. As public pressure works and power of the people brings these cases to the Supreme Court, stand by as we look closely at what happens in the court at 12 p.m. on the live report.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला
मेरी चिमनी टूट जाएगी व्हाट आर यू डूइंग
रानी इस घर में कुछ है जो टूटता नहीं
ये पिलर कभी नहीं टूटेगा रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी से बना
रुंगटा नहीं तो घर स्ट्रॉन्ग नहीं रुंगटा स्टील टीएमटी बार एकदम सॉलिड
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध MDH गरम मसाला
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा
We are willing to put an end to this conflict via peaceful means based on the principles that I outlined in July last year when I spoke at the Foreign Ministry of Russia.
Putin squarely blamed Kyiv for the failure of peace negotiations, accusing Ukraine's leadership of refusing dialogue.
Statements from Zelensky that he is not prepared to discuss territory issues. At the moment, we don't see their readiness. I would like to remind where it all began.
Rejecting allegations against Russia, Putin claimed Moscow did not start the war. Putin blames roots of Ukraine conflict lie in 2014 anti-constitutional coup.
We did not start this war. This war began as a result of the anti-constitutional military coup in 2014 and then commencement of
A big day in the Supreme Court as it hears both the Sengar and the Aravalli case. Stories that were reported by Republic TV, investigated by Republic TV and debated on Republic all of last week. As public pressure works and power of the people brings these cases to the Supreme Court, stand by as we look closely at what happens in the court at 12 p.m. on the live report.
All right, let's give you the breaking news that's coming in on the Sengar case from the top court of the country. The apex court bench has assembled to hear the matter. The Supreme Court bench on a Monday morning in the vacations has assembled. They're going to be hearing the Kuldeep Sengar case. They're going to be hearing the CBI's appeal filed in the Kuldeep Sengar case. This is a bench that's headed by Chief Justice of India, Justice Surya Kant, who's going to be hearing the Sengar case. The Delhi High Court a few days ago had given relief to Kuldeep Sengar, a rapist who had been convicted by the trial court. His sentence had been suspended by the Delhi High Court pending his appeal. The CBI on Friday filed an SLP before the Supreme Court after studying the Delhi High Court order granting conditional bail to former MLA Kuldeep Sengar in the Unnao rape case. After that bail plea, it's now coming up in the top court of the country. Appearing for the CBI in the Supreme Court, Solicitor General of India, Mr. Tushar Mehta, already seated, was waiting for the bench to assemble. Now the breaking news is coming in. The Supreme Court bench has assembled. The Supreme Court bench of Chief Justice of India, Justice Surya Kant, Justice Masai, and Justice Maheshwari, who are going to be hearing this matter today. Protests had broken out outside the court complexes, intermittently raising slogans, and the Delhi police had earlier also announced that they should vacate the premises. Today, we're staying with those pictures. I want to go across to Shamvi. Shamvi, we've also seen today protests have broken out outside the Supreme Court. These women have been detained. They've been taken in a bus. Security has been strengthened. What's happening around you as we await for item 3 when that judgment and that hearing in the Supreme Court is to begin?
Well, right now you can see that there is heavy deployment of RAF, Rapid Action Force, and also Delhi Police outside. And this is the situation outside almost all these gates. And this is exactly where the protests broke out. And that has been the situation. The victim, the Unnao rape victim, and her family and the other supporters, they have been protesting even at Jantar Mantar for 3 days now. And they have been protesting against the bail which has been given to Kuldeep Sengar in this rape matter. And that is exactly what happened today as well. Although Yogita Bhayana was seen speaking about how they did not want to create a ruckus and they just wanted their point to be put across by the victim. And although it was controlled within 4 to 5 minutes of the protest breaking out, the RAF detained them, and this situation right now is pretty much in control. As you can see, it is empty streets, but still there is heavy deployment. I'll also show you the deployment on the other gate. So this is gate D and that is gate C on the far end. You'll see there's Delhi Police as well as RAF deployed because again we can expect another breaking out of another set of protests in the same matter. Back to you.
Let's also try and go across to Riyanka, who's joining us on the story, Shamvi. And Riyanka, we're seeing that the Supreme Court bench is already sat. I'm also going to go across to Pratibha Prahlad, who's joining us on the story. And Pratibha, just a short while ago, Abhishek had spoken with you. Shortly, 19th Tisari Court delivered it. The Delhi High Court in this order has said his sentence is to be suspended. It's shock all around, Pratibha.
So this Unnao rape case is not just a legal matter, according to me, but it is a test of the moral and ethical strength of India's justice system. And what people are looking for with this, for in the Supreme Court, the highest court of the country, is the restoration of that moral order. Because, legally people can kind of, subvert justice and find ways and means of, of getting out of some sort of a technicality on grounds of technicality. But morally and ethically, this wretched man deserves to be in jail for life, if not a death sentence, because he has not only used his political power to rape that girl who came looking for a job to him. He's misused his power. He's abused his power, and he's such an awful man that he kills her uncles, and the lawyer who was coming with her, to court, gets killed in an accident, which cannot be a coincidence, and then her father gets killed in police custody. So it is not a simple matter. The Supreme Court today, India hopes, I hope, you hope, all of us hope that the Supreme Court restores our belief in the moral, strength of its justice system. That is what is more important today.
Rhythm, I just want to understand, how does it matter that a four-time MLA is a public servant by definition or not? How does it matter that this is the stage of bail and a reappreciation of evidence is not happening? The threat perception is there, where the court itself acknowledges the threat perception, only that it transfers the onus on the protection agencies and says that if the police fails, it's not the accused's fault, and so he should be granted bail. So you think all these issues would come up during the review of the CBI appeal?
I think these issues need to come up in the SLP that's been filed in this case. And I also to really understand here, when bail had been granted to Kuldeep Sengar, even at that time, the rape victim said exactly what she told you, Priyanka. Please tell our viewers what she told you. She still fears for her life.
That's right. The rape victim has been saying that Kuldeep Singh Sengar is a very, very powerful man, and he has been sending goons around in and around her residence, and also he has been sending multiple threats, and something that he has been doing from inside the jail only, that we have also understood from the victim. And she also now fears for the fact that if he is out on bail, then she is going to be in a massive threat. She tells that her mother and her sisters, there are three more sisters that the victim has, and a younger brother. She says that all of the family is in continuous threat. The breadwinner, the father of the family, was in fact he faced a custodial death, and of course other three members of the family of this particular victim, they were also killed in an accident. Which was also completely scripted. Now, on the other hand, if we talk about the victim, she has also said that in terms of all these goons who have been coming outside her house, and she has been receiving these threat calls, she says that Kuldeep Sengar, if he's out on bail, then the threat only increases, which is why she has been urging the people to come along with her and raise their voice. In fact, we have seen when the people have been protesting on the streets of the national capital, in fact, the Congress workers who protested outside the Supreme Court, they were detained by the Delhi police for they were not allowed to protest at these areas. And the victim also says for the fact that she has faith in the Supreme Court. If today she does not get any relief from the Supreme Court, if there is no stay on this particular order by the High Court Divisional Bench, then she will herself go ahead and file a petition challenging the Delhi High Court's order.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I completely agree with you, and I want to tell our viewers that as we're speaking, we can also see that Supreme Court hearing is continuing. Sengar case hearing has not begun. Shambhi is joining us from outside the Supreme Court. Just a short while ago, we saw the bus that was there. Live visuals are also coming in, which we're going to go across to, where women and protesters have been detained outside the Supreme Court. If we can cut across to that. Yes. All right. Those visuals, okay, we're going to wait for that audio to come across. Live visuals that are coming in, Delhi police outside the Supreme Court. This bus full of women had been detained earlier. Protesters were protesting outside the Supreme Court against the suspension of sentence to rapist Kuldeep Singh Sengar, demanding justice.
हाँ इनको ले गए महिला कांग्रेस महिला
Yes, Abhishek, you were speaking about the protests.
No, I was just thinking that these protests, howsoever meager, really help put the focus on the case, as also put some pressure on the system to really be sensitive and to, look at the whole case in a bit more dispassionate manner, and to not read everything very technically in terms of law, but interpret the law in the light of what exists on the ground, which is that this is a powerful man, a four-time former MLA, and in a Mofussil place like Unnao or any other similar Mofussil place, a four-time MLA wields a lot of clout, and the reflection of which is the fact that he could get away in the locality, in the town, in the district, to a level where the case had to be transferred. The fact that his brother is directly involved in assault on the victim's father, which contributed to the death of the father in custody, in judicial custody. Those injuries led to the death for which Sengar is an accused. So, which means, Rhythm, there was no sense of remorse, there was no sense of apologia, there was no sense of, if anything, there is a lot of mens rea. And in that backdrop, for the court to be, taking the very technical interpretation route to let bail happen and say that bail is not the stage where I was actually wanting to understand from you, Rhythm, before we went to the pictures, the court to say that at the stage of bail we need not review the evidence and just let it be. You think that's a weak link in the Delhi High Court order which the Supreme Court might look at?
What was the weak link?
No, the weak link according to me is the court saying that because this is the stage of bail, we need not really review the entire evidence and not look at the whole case holistically in its entirety just because we have to give bail and let the agencies take care of the protection. You think that's the weak link of the Delhi High Court order which might get the attention of the Supreme Court?
I think what will get the attention of the Supreme Court, Abhishek, is saying that Kuldeep Sengar does not come within the definition of a public servant. Because a public servant, if he'd been convicted in such a case, would have a sentence that would continue for life imprisonment, for a longer sentence. But they said since he's not a public servant and he's already served the 7 years, then the minimum sentence has been served by him and therefore he can be let away and his sentence can be suspended pending appeal. That was a very dangerous thing to have done, to go on that mere technicality of whether Kuldeep Sengar could be seen as a public servant or not. The Unnao rape case has shocked the nation because the survivor is also met with a deadly accident. She was battling for her life, I remember, in 2019. Today she's come here, and I think it's just been after 2017 when that death happened, the self-immolation attempt that she tried, her father dying in police custody. It can't get more glaring and brutal than this, where the accident generated a lot of controversy about the premeditated orchestration by Kuldeep Singh Sengar. She was assaulted by his brother earlier. So a lot of things did not add up. And now the Delhi High Court's order is going to be seen in the top court of the country. We earlier asked, where is Kuldeep Singh Sengar? We're also seeing whether the bench has started to speak, but as of now, they continue hearing the item number 2. The CBI probed this case. There were lots of people who spoke a lot of things in this case. This case was transferred to Delhi. The Tisazari court heard the matter. And yet, after the rape sentence of life imprisonment, the sentence has been suspended, and that too after only 7 years. We stay with those live visuals. There's also Sengar case is going to be heard next in the Supreme Court is the breaking news that's coming in. It's item 2 that is now currently being heard, and we have details about what item 2 is. But we don't want to go into any and every controversy. So viewers, we're not going to go into what the item 2 really is all about. But let's tell our viewers that it's item number 3 where Kuldeep Singh Sengar's case is going to be heard very patiently. Solicitor General of India waiting for his turn in the top court of the country. 11:30, around 11:30, the bench had assembled. They're hearing all the matters they heard mentioning Kuldeep Sengar case to come up next in the top court of the country. On Friday, we saw the CBI challenging the Delhi High Court order. Now we're going to see in the Unnao case, the CBI approached the Supreme Court against the Delhi High Court's verdict. The basis for releasing Sengar was his prima facie findings of the Supreme Court that bail had to be granted to him, and also saying that even though bail was granted, they sentenced him to life imprisonment in 2019, but they suspended his sentence pending disposal of the appeal. Let me go across to Riyanka and Shambhavi that are joining us live on the story. Shambhavi, I want to cut across to you to get a sense about this case. It's a case in which the Delhi High Court passes an order. The Delhi High Court's order is very critical to understand here, because they say because he does not come within the definition of a public servant, the 7-year minimum sentence is something he's already taken on, and therefore his sentence can be suspended for time being.
Definitely, and on the technical part of his sentence has been suspended for the pendency of the appeal. If we look at it, he's still convicted. Delhi High Court did not say that he's innocent. He's still convicted in other cases, like in the case of the victim's father's death, and also in several other accounts of him intimidating the witnesses. Even one of the witnesses died, and also trying to intimidate the victim and her family. So that is on the technical part of it, but as we can see that the protest which broke out outside Supreme Court, and also has been going on in Jantar Mantar, or the approach that the activist or the victim family has been taking, that it is not right on the ethical, in an ethical way, it is not right in a moral way, because Kuldeep Sengar is a convicted rapist. He has also been convicted for, as I mentioned, several accounts of intimidating the witnesses, several accounts of intimidating the rape victim as well. Her father died in police custody while he was a public servant, while he was an MLA. So these are the angles which I'm sure the Supreme Court is expected to see today, and also about on what ground did Delhi High Court in the first place suspend his sentence. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are continuing to have Pratibha Prahalad, I believe, with us, and the court is hearing. Rhythm, this being a rape case, this is going to be like in camera, like not an open hearing.
The trial court hearing could have been in camera if that's what the trial court had wanted. The Delhi High Court hearing was very much, Abhishek, in the open. Everybody could come in here because the trial court was hearing the evidence which was critical to this case. But I also want to tell our viewers a very interesting point that Abhishek has actually raised. Hari Haran, senior advocate appearing for Kuldeep Sengar in the Delhi High Court, had actually stated and given out great details about how possibly during the time that the rape victim was being raped, she was allegedly on a phone call with someone. So the kind of arguments that were being put forward in the Delhi High Court, Pratibha, were not suitable. I think they were sometimes trying to mock the victim and her plight, despite she having lost her aunts in that truck accident when she was coming to Delhi, despite she having lost her father, despite she having shown her intent of putting herself on fire, self-immolation outside the UP Chief Minister's office. This is the kind of arguments that were being given in the Delhi High Court against her.
So the justice, when we talk about justice, what are we looking at? We're not just looking at legalese, we're not looking at technicalities, and we're not looking at final verdicts. But what we're looking at is timely protection, empathy, and a kind of like an institutional integrity.
All right, let me just break this down for our viewers, Pratibha. I apologize to having interrupted you. There's big breaking news coming in from the Supreme Court. The Kuldeep Sengar hearing has begun in the Supreme Court. The vacation bench led by Chief Justice of India, Justice Surya Kant, has begun hearing the CBI's plea challenging the Delhi High Court order suspending the life sentence awarded to former Uttar Pradesh MLA Kuldeep Sengar in the Unnao rape case. Tushar Mehta, Solicitor General, has begun his arguments, and he begins by saying, this is the horrific case of rape of a child. Charges were framed under Section 376, which is of rape. He started saying charges were framed and under POSCO Act. So the arguments have begun in the case. The Solicitor General appears. Arguments begin. The Solicitor General says, okay, 1 minute, I'm just writing it. Arguments begin in the case. Conviction is on 2 counts. I have quoted all relevant paras. Para 3 of my note is also the conviction order. Solicitor General of India, Tushar Mehta, appearing for the CBI in the Supreme Court, begins arguments right at the start. He speaks about the horrific case of rape of a child and how charges have been framed under rape and sections of the POSCO Act. It's clear that what the Solicitor General is pinpointing is this was not a case that's fit to have his sentence suspended. The Solicitor General also pinpointing how in appeal they've come to the Supreme Court, knocking on the doors of Supreme Court to get justice and to get this order of the Delhi High Court revoked. The bench of Justice Surya Kant, Justice Maheshwari and Justice Maseha are hearing this matter where the CBI has filed the petition against the Delhi High Court's order. The Solicitor General is saying the conviction order is being referred to by him, that the conviction is on 2 counts. One is the rape under Section 376 of IPC, and the second is Section 5 and 6 of the POSCO Act. It's a very horrific case where a child aged 15 years was raped. He's also giving out her age, Abhishek, and he's saying that she had been brutally raped at that time.
Yeah. And I think now things are moving in the right direction, it seems, going by the arguments of the Solicitor General, Rhythm, as you brought out. I think that there is a strong position being taken that this is a miscarriage of justice, that there is a real threat perception around victim that needs to be given prominence, that needs to be given due weightage, which perhaps has been overlooked by the Delhi High Court in its order. I am just continuing to read from what you are bringing out, Rhythm, and according to which the Solicitor General has said that there is a finding recorded which says the child was less than 16 and was 15 years, 10 months. And against this conviction, appeal is pending. Justice J.K. Maheshwari, who is part of the bench, is saying Section 376 had been dealt with. What does this mean, Rhythm? Section 376 had been dealt with. Does it mean that even the Supreme Court is at this stage not willing to go into the case on its merits?
No. What this is meaning is he's talking about how and under what laws this case has been dealt with. Okay. He's basically giving out details about what's happened in this case. And as we are speaking, the Solicitor General of India is speaking as of now about how and in what sections this rape had been spoken about. He's talking about how horrific it was. Very important to mention that he's mentioned the age of the girl to being just 15 years. He's now speaking about the sentence and he's talking in great detail about what the sentence really encompasses. In passing, an observation has been made by Justice Maheshwari about how Section 376 has been dealt with in this case, and he's hearing it in detail.
Yeah. And Section 376, for the benefit of viewers, is from the old IPC, which deals with the cases of rape and the earlier Indian Penal Code. Of course, this is a case pertaining to 2017, so you can imagine.
I also want to tell our viewers what's happening inside court. Coming in first on Republic TV, the Solicitor General of India is also saying that there is a finding that has been recorded that a child was less than 16, was 15 years and 10 months. Against this conviction, the appeal is pending. He's also saying that in this case, it does not matter till what time the court had convicted Sengar, as in what life imprisonment, for how long it was, because Tushar Mehta, the Solicitor General, says he had been convicted, Abhishek, for his biological age being till his entire life.
Yeah, I think that the Solicitor General is really calling the bluff of that part of Delhi High Court order in which it put the onus entirely on the interpretation of POXO Act and the public servant clause within that. And saying that, come on, he's convicted already for 376. That's rape. He's a rape convict. And for rape, the punishment is life. The punishment is minimum 20 years, possibly biological life. So where is this question that he has served these many years under the Section 5C of the POXO Act and 21C of the CRPC or the relevant clauses of the People's Representation Act, that he is not a public servant, so on and so forth. So I think the CBI appeal And Solicitor General Tushar Mehta's presentation of that makes it amply clear that there has been complete error of judgment on the part of the Delhi High Court, or maybe deliberative interpretation of the clauses in a manner that lets a rape convict go off the hook, and that's why this appeal to correct that wrong. The pictures of activists we are seeing from outside are a reflection of the angst, the anger, and the anxiety of people at the manner in which a technicality of law has been allowed to be used in a manner that a rape convict is allowed to go off the hook rhythm, right? Kapil Sankla is joining us live. He's a lawyer, and while we continue to get to you, proceedings from the court, it's a packed courtroom as Rhythm brings out.
Yes.
The Solicitor General Tushar Mehta is arguing, Rhythm.
Yes. So I just want to explain to our viewers what's happening inside the courtroom before we go across to what our guests say, Abhishek. There is a lot of talk inside the courtroom about what life imprisonment this means, because the recent course of judgments have said life imprisonment, unless it says till your biological age, can also mean just 14 years or just a time that's given. But in this case, the law has been read out by Tushar Mehta, the Solicitor General, to say under 376 subsection 2, it's clearly life imprisonment. However, in this case, even if that was not so, it is clearly been stated that it is life imprisonment because they say till his biological age, which means for the remainder of his life. So the Solicitor General is trying to impress upon the Supreme Court the severity of the sentence against Kuldeep Sengar and saying the Delhi High Court has not realized this is a case of aggravated sexual assault in which he had been jailed for the remainder of his life. They've said his guilt has been proven beyond doubt by the CBI before the trial court. The court, he's saying, the High Court has gone wrong on a few counts. The Solicitor General is giving out details at the Supreme Court where he says that irrespective about what life imprisonment we are talking about, the bottom line is this girl was raped when she was 15 years. The trial court has said that he has to be in prison. And I also want to tell our viewers, as we are speaking, the victim's mother and two sisters have arrived at the Supreme Court. They're going inside the courtroom. And this is going to be so crucial. The rape survivor is inside the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court continues hearing. Solicitor General of India appearing for the CBI in the Supreme Court. As we are speaking, the Solicitor General says Kuldeep Sengar has to be in the prison for the remainder of his life. So there is no question right now of suspending Abhishek his sentence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a wrong is being corrected now with the arguments of the CBI, with the Solicitor General presenting them, Rhythm, and you're bringing to us those live updates. Okay, now what we are getting to here is that the Solicitor General has made it amply clear that this is a rape convict. This is a rape convict under section 376. He goes on to say that 376 has or had two parts. He's convicted under rape, which is 375, and then rape by someone who enjoys a dominant position. Then minimum prison is 20 years or can extend to the biological life that you mentioned, Rhythm.
Yes.
The CJI now then says that you say it falls under 376(2)(1. Assuming victim is not a minor, even then minimum sentence to 376(1) will apply. Which means, I think between the CJI and the Solicitor General, if you look at these arguments, Rhythm, it is clear that they are calling the bluff of the Delhi High Court order. They are really putting meat over the skeleton, so to say, and exposing exposing, Rhythm, the misinterpretation of law, it seems, that, or selective interpretation of law at least, that the Delhi High Court had done.
Very much, very much. Let's tell our viewers a very important question, an observation coming in from the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of India has said, are you saying the concept of public servant is irrelevant if the victim is a minor? It's a very important question, and I'm going to make our viewers understand what's happened. The Solicitor General of India, appearing for the CBI, tells the Supreme Court the victim was 15 years. She was a minor. In such cases of rape, it's very important to understand that POSCO has been involved. That means at 15 years she had been raped. That means those charges are more serious. Therefore, life imprisonment has to be very critical in such cases. The Chief Justice Sevo says whether he's a public servant or not, it's irrelevant if the victim is a minor. He asks this question to the Solicitor General, who replies yes, because this is a more heinous crime, because she's a victim and she's been brutally raped. Therefore, if the person is in a dominant position, just like Kuldeep Sengar was, because he was a legislator, because he was a politician, and therefore he was a VIP who in that sense tried to use all his might to try and shuttle her. In this sense, a life imprisonment sentence should continue for him. It should not be something that should be suspended so lightly. So let me quickly also tell our viewers what's happened is the Supreme Court asking questions and therefore being told that as a powerful MLA, this sentence of his should not have been suspended. The Supreme Court is also being told, Justice Maheshwari had asked certain questions. The Solicitor General asked about the concept of a public relevance, and then the SG says, please take examples when during the course of duty, if a police officer is very important observations. First, let's break this down for our viewers. Coming in from the Supreme Court, I'm just going to take this and put this in our group so that we can just put this on an alert for you viewers. The Solicitor General says, please take examples when during course of duty, if the constable does such an act, that will be guilty of. Then if the army officer does an act, then he will also be guilty of an aggravated sexual assault. Public servants is not defined in this act. It's defined in borrowing what the IPC says, but an definition needs to be put in context. He's basically saying that a public servant definition cannot be read in the narrow sense of things. He's going against the Delhi High Court order, saying the Delhi High Court was erroneous in saying that a public servant needs to be treated in a different manner. The Chief Justice says, so you are trying to say a public servant is someone who's enjoying a dominant position that point of time. So you say when someone comes to an MLA for help, the act being done and is in a dominant position, and that any such act will be an aggravated act. That is exactly what the Solicitor General is saying. The Chief Justice puts it in an observation, but rather a rhetorical question, because the Chief Justice has understood that is the premises of what is being said. Now, another question that is being put right here as we are speaking by the Chief Justice of India in this case is on how and what is a dominant person in this case, and any person who is in a position of authority shall be interpreted to be a very powerful person under the being seen as a public servant, and therefore Abhishek seen to be someone whose life sentence cannot be suspended.
Well, absolutely, and I think the SG has really called the bluff of the kind of interpretation that was done by the Delhi High Court, taking subterfuge behind technicalities of law, both in terms of the CRPC or its newer equivalent, or the IPC and the relevant sections, the POXO Act. The arguments are very clear. He's a rape convict. The punishment for that crime is life sentence, for God's sake. And how does it matter whether he's technically a public servant or not? He's a person in dominant position, irrespective of whether it's a constable to whom a complainant has come to file a complaint. The Solicitor General is saying that so in the case of MLA, he is someone who was in a dominant position. He was a powerful MLA, and so this technicality of being a public servant or not does not apply, and he's a convict of Article 370, Section 376, and that's the punishment for that is life, and minimum 20 years, possibly all of life. In which case, whether he has spent 7 years under the technicality of POXO, and whether he is public servant or not does not apply. And so I think it's clear, and the judge's rhythm, you are better at understanding those things. The kind of questions that are being asked by the bench, you think the bench is just sort of confirming or is wanting to be doubly sure about the argument, or the bench is sort of agreeing with the arguments being given? I think rhythm is...
What's happening Inside the Supreme Court, Abhishek, questions are being put on the cruelty and the extent of damage that was done in this case. Very, very crucial, because the court is now being told by the Solicitor General penetrative sexual assault is an independent offence. Clause 4 provides for punishment after amendment. There are certain sections when there is an aggravated offence. These categories are of people in a dominant position over the victim. The Solicitor General is also talking about how in such cases life imprisonment cannot just be suspended only on the basis of a narrow interpretation of the law. As we are speaking, let's quickly tell our viewers, the only channel to get you live updates about what's happening outside the courtroom, telling you with a battery of reporters outside the Supreme Court about what's happening. There has been security deployment beefed up outside the Supreme Court. Bhagwan Das Road has been now curtailed. The bus that was carrying these women has now been detained. Inside the Supreme Court, a full throttle argument from the Solicitor General of India, the country's top lawyer for the CBI, who's completely saying this Delhi High Court order was erroneous. The life imprisonment should not have been suspended. He's clearly pointing out that Kuldeep Sengar, a very powerful man, had been booked under POSCO Act as well as under rape laws, and therefore being in a dominant position as a VIP, the life imprisonment cannot just be suspended on the basis of a narrow reading of what constitutes a public servant. He's also said in such similar cases, even someone else who is in an important position, they cannot be let away because this is the rape of a minor. He gives the rape of the victim to be 15 years, and he says this is under the POSCO Act, which the courts of the country have to take extremely seriously, and therefore the court, they're saying, has gone wrong on a lot of grounds. The Delhi High Court order seems to be erroneous. The interpretation of public servant is not relevant here. The Delhi High Court has gone wrong is what the Solicitor General says. He says the punishment has not properly been given, and not only on grounds of what a public servant is, but when it comes to the POSCO Act and rape charges, Kuldeep Sengar, being in a very powerful position, misused his position, raped a minor who was 15 years, and then tried to scuttle the law. Therefore, the Solicitor General says the Delhi High Court order should be set aside, which means they have to ensure that this man does not get out of jail. Kuldeep Sengar, this was also Republic's campaign. As we had continued to bat against him, it's Republic versus Sengar, a sustained campaign that we've been carrying out since 2018, where for the first time, the rape survivor had tried to self-immolate herself before this matter had reached the Supreme Court. At that time, when her father had been killed in judicial custody, when her sisters, when her aunts had been killed, not her sisters, her aunts had been killed, when they were on their way to give witness testimonies in the courts in Delhi, that's what had happened. Let me also tell our viewers the latest information that's coming in. I'm going to go across to the latest information.
The big one, stay of the order short rhythm.
The Supreme, that's right. So the Supreme Court is now being told, Abhishek, that Solicitor General is asking for sections being seen. The case against Sengar is he's a very powerful MLA. Solicitor General says, please take example about what happened, and then the Solicitor General says, stay the order, ensure justice to the victim. They ask for this order to be stayed, request this to happen. He's also held guilty of killing her father in another case. Please see the sections of the POSCO Act which show that there is a divergence in the laws. High Court did not deal with this. This convict was held guilty of murdering the father of this woman, of this girl. He is still in jail for that. The Solicitor General urges the Supreme Court, I urge the conscience of the Supreme Court to stay the High Court order for the sake of the child who was a victim of this. This is a pained Solicitor General appearing in the top court, looking at the Supreme Court, anguish at what this girl has gone through, her family has gone through, running from pillar to post, and asking for the top court, appealing to the Supreme Court to give no bail and stay the High Court order, which he believes is erroneous. This is coming from a position of, it's a personal position that I think that the Solicitor General has taken, where now the Chief Justice is now dictating an order. All right, let's also break that. The Supreme Court is also looking at what the Solicitor General has said. The Supreme Court is saying, the Solicitor General says, this convict was held guilty of murdering the father of the victim. He's still in jail for that. I urge the conscience of this court to stay this order for the sake of the child who was a victim of this. Let's tell our viewers, the victim is in the Supreme Court. Her mother is in the Supreme Court. Okay, as we are speaking, yes, Abhishek.
Now, my question is, if the order is stayed, does it end there? All the options with Kuldeep Sengar also stand exhausted? Of course, a stay is a big relief for the victim, but can he again come back to the court?
He will come back. He can come back. He has this battery of very powerful lawyers. So they will find some way to appeal against whatever's happening today. This is just an interim relief. If the Supreme Court does choose to hear what the Solicitor General is saying, and I want to tell our viewers that the anguished Solicitor General appeals to the conscience of the Supreme Court, asking for the Delhi High Court order to be stayed, and says some justice needs to be given to this victim and her family. Her father was also killed by this man. He's a very powerful MLA, and therefore this conscience of the justice of the Supreme Court needs to be awakened. The conscience of this court needs to be awakened. That's the language that the CBI, the Solicitor General appearing for the CBI, has used in the court. He's gone from talking about the technical sections, and that's how the CBI and the Solicitor General started on. They started speaking about Section 376 of the IPC, which speaks about rape, and then about sections of the POSCO Act, talking about how heinous it is, how she's just 15 years of age, and then he went on to strike an emotional angle, talking about the anguish this victim has gone through, how her aunts have been killed, how her father was killed by this man. He's still continuing to do that sentence. He also reminded the court this is a very powerful MLA, requested then the Supreme Court finally to stay the order of the Delhi High Court, saying the Delhi High Court has gone wrong. He says this Delhi High Court order should be stayed. He also says that the High Court did not deal with several other grounds. This is a matter of life imprisonment. The life imprisonment means here the full biological age of Kuldeep Sengar. He cannot be released right now. So viewers, as we're saying, let's also tell our viewers that the Supreme Court here is hearing. Okay, all right, let's tell you the breaking news coming in. The Supreme Court is saying, tentatively, we are inclined to stay the order. Breaking news coming in. Generally, the principle is since the person has walked out of the court does not take away the liberty. But here the situation is peculiar since he's inside the jail for another sentence. So there's a hint, viewers, first on Republic TV about what could be next. Breaking it down, the top court of the country is saying, tentatively, we are inclined to stay the order. The top court of the country gives out an indication about what's there ahead, and they're also saying that since he's already in prison, and viewers, look at the shocking bit of news, the thing that he's in prison for, that the Supreme Court is speaking about, is the murder of the rape survivor's father. So the Chief Justice of India says, tentatively, after hearing the arguments of the CBI, of the Solicitor General, we are inclined to stay the order. The principle is the person has walked out, we do not take away the liberty, but the situation is peculiar since he's inside the prison, and therefore we're going to be looking into that. Remember, before the Solicitor General had spoken, Siddharth Dave also tried to speak in the courtroom, and I tried to show certain sections, but the Chief Justice had cut him short by saying if conviction is under 2 penal statutes, High Court proceedings only under POSCO. Dave tried to say sentencing was granted only because he fell under the definition of a public servant. However, the Chief Justice of India has now spoken. In the next 2 minutes, viewers, we're going to tell you exactly what the Supreme Court says. It seems they are now bending, inclined to give a stay to the order of the Delhi High Court that had given a big relief, a big smile to the VIP rapist Kuldeep Sengar. It's possible they're going to be staying that. They've said tentatively, we're going to hear this matter. We're going to stay the Supreme Court's judgment after hearing what the Solicitor General said, who said this is a horrific case of the minor who's been raped. He gave examples about how a person in dominant section should not be treated. Okay, let me tell our viewers, Abhishek, Justice Maheshwari is speaking and saying, show us where the High Court has considered whether he's guilty under sections of rape or not. Senior advocate Hari Haran, appearing for Kuldeep Sengar, says a penal statute cannot import definition from another statute. Justice Maheshwari says, we are only saying one thing, see the trial court order, para 14 is the answer. Where is the suspension order? Has this been dealt with? That was section 376. They're talking about it.
Rhythm, I'm also amazed at the simplicity of the law if it is in right hand. So, for example, when the Solicitor General says that the clause of public servant in POCSO is essentially to make the law stringent, make the punishment even more severe for a public servant. And that does not mean that if someone is not a public servant, the punishment gets diluted. It does not happen vice versa. So the public servant clause was clearly misused rather by the Delhi High Court, and that's been corrected. The court is inclined to stay the order, which means obviously they would pass such an instruction. And so Kuldeep Sengar is not coming out of the jail anytime soon. And the clarity with which the Solicitor General has spoken about the fact that the conviction for or the punishment for a rape convict is life term in jail, including possibly biological age, at the very least 20 years. So this 7-year thing does not come in the picture, and that this has been a clear case of misinterpretation of sections, subsections, clauses, etc. of the POCSO Act in favor of the accused, looking at the accused with some benign indulgence, so to say, on the part of the court.
Okay,
and
I
so
want to
really
just tell our
out.
viewers, as we are speaking, there is more and more news coming from the Supreme Court. The CGI has said, the Solicitor General had first said, POSCO is to have overriding effect. The convict also held guilty of killing the survivor's father and some other people. He's still in jail. He's not been able to come out. We are answerable to the child who was 15 years. For the sake of the girl, need to stay the order. The Chief Justice asks, what is your answer to the High Court order paragraphs where conviction under IPC and POSCO is noted but inadvertently does not deal with conviction under the Indian Penal Code, which is the law of the land, used to be when it came to the crime laws. He says it proceeds on the premises that conviction is also under POSCO. He says, Hari Haran says, I have undergone 10 years. Hari Haran is the lawyer for Kuldeep Sengar. Let's clarify for our viewers, he's only undergone 7 years. He's not undergone 10 years. And that seems to be the contentious issue. All right, and photos of the judges are doing... Okay, so Hari Haran has now made this about a media trial. So the breaking news coming in, I'm going to take this... the lawyers... Okay, Abhishek, this
argument of media trial, I don't understand from where this comes into the picture. This seems like a last-ditch desperate attempt to deflect from the fact that on the merits